Hello, I'm SA, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
John Maynard Keynes, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, published in 1936, though indelibly linked to the year 1937 due to its formative influence on economic policy during that tumultuous period, remains a monumental achievement in economic thought. Its impact reverberates through macroeconomic policy to this day, reshaping our understanding of employment, interest rates, and the role of money in driving economic activity. This essay will explore the genesis of Keynes' ideas, dissect the core tenets of the general theory, examine its immediate and lasting impact, discuss criticisms and revisions, and trace its profound influence on subsequent economic thought and policy. The intellectual landscape preceding the general theory was dominated by classical economics, a school of thought that largely adhered to Say's law, which posits that supply creates its own demand. This implied that unemployment was a temporary phenomenon, self-correcting through wage and price adjustments. Classical economists believed that markets, left to their own devices, would naturally tend toward full employment equilibrium. The Great Depression, however, presented a stark challenge to this prevailing orthodoxy. Mass unemployment persisted for years, defying classical predictions. The experience exposed the limitations of conventional wisdom and created a fertile ground for new economic ideas. Figures such as Dennis Robertson contributed to pre-Keynesian monetary theory, yet lacked a cohesive framework addressing aggregate demand deficiencies. Ralph Hawtrey's focus on monetary disequilibrium hinted at the importance of money. However, he failed to provide a convincing explanation for prolonged depressions. Keynes drew inspiration from these earlier thinkers, yet he synthesized their work into a radically new framework. The general theory challenged the classical assumptions head-on. Its central argument revolved around the concept of aggregate demand, its crucial role in determining the level of employment and output in an economy. Keynes argued that effective demand, composed of consumption expenditure and investment expenditure, could fall short of the level needed to achieve full employment. This deficiency in aggregate demand could result in a persistent state of underemployment, equilibrium, where resources remained idle and unemployment remained persistently high. Keynes introduced the concept of the consumption function, which relates consumer spending to disposable income. He posited that as income rises, consumption increases, however by a smaller proportion. This implies that a portion of each additional dollar earned is saved, creating a leakage from the circular flow of income. This leakage necessitates investment to fill the gap between income and consumption, maintaining aggregate demand at a level consistent with full employment. Investment, however, is subject to considerable volatility, depending on factors such as business confidence, interest rates, and expected future profit. Keynes also challenged the classical view of interest rates, arguing that they are determined primarily by the supply and demand for money, rather than by the supply and demand for loanable funds, as classical economists believed. He introduced the concept of liquidity, preference, the desire to hold money in liquid form, as a key determinant of interest rates. Individuals hold money for three primary motives: transactionary purposes, precautionary reasons, and speculative gains. The speculative motive, in particular, is dependent on expectations, creating a volatile element in the demand for money. An increase in the supply of money, according to Keynes, would lower interest rates, stimulating investment and boosting aggregate demand. Conversely, a decrease in the money supply would raise interest rates, dampening investment and reducing aggregate demand. The general theory presented a powerful argument for government intervention in the economy. Keynes advocated for active fiscal policy, utilizing government spending and taxation to manage aggregate demand and stabilize the economy. During recessions, Keynes argued that governments should increase spending or cut taxes to stimulate demand and boost employment. During periods of inflation, governments should reduce spending or raise taxes to cool down the economy. The multiplier effect, a central concept in Keynesian economics, amplifies the impact of government spending. An initial injection of government spending creates a ripple effect, with each round of spending generating further income and demand. The magnitude of the multiplier depends on the marginal propensity to consume, the proportion of each additional dollar of income that is spent rather than saved. The immediate impact of the general theory was profound. It provided a theoretical justification for the expansionary fiscal policies adopted by many governments in the wake of the Great Depression. The New Deal in the United States, for example, drew heavily on Keynesian ideas. The work provided an intellectual framework for understanding and addressing the economic challenges of the time, influencing the development of national income accounting and macroeconomic modeling. The ideas provided tools for policymakers to actively manage the economy, attempting to steer it towards full employment and price stability. The Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, which established a system of fixed exchange rates and international institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, was also influenced by Keynesian principles. The general theory's influence extended far beyond the immediate post-war period. Keynesian economics dominated macroeconomic policy-making for several decades, shaping the economic policies of many countries. The development of econometric models, utilizing statistical techniques to estimate economic relationships, allowed economists to quantify the impact of various policies and refine Keynesian theories. The Phillips curve, which postulates an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment, became a central tool in macroeconomic policy making. The curve offered policymakers a menu of choices, trading off between higher inflation and lower unemployment. Despite its widespread influence, the general theory encountered substantial criticism and revision. Monetarists, led by Milton Friedman, challenged the Keynesian emphasis on fiscal policy, arguing that monetary policy is far more effective in managing aggregate demand. They criticized the idea of a stable Phillips curve, arguing that the relationship between inflation and unemployment disappears in the long run. The supply-side economics movement, which gained prominence in the 1980s, criticized Keynesian policies for their alleged disincentive effects on work effort, investment, and innovation. The movement advocated for tax cuts and deregulation to stimulate supply, rather than demand. New classical economists introduced rational expectations into macroeconomic models, assuming that individuals form expectations about the future based on all available information. This challenged the Keynesian assumption that government policies can systematically fool individuals. New Keynesian economists attempted to provide microeconomic foundations for Keynesian theories, focusing on issues such as sticky prices and wages, imperfect competition, and information asymmetries. These economists sought to explain why markets may fail to clear in the short run, justifying government intervention to stabilize the economy. The global financial crisis of 2008 spurred a renewed interest in Keynesian economics. The crisis demonstrated the limits of self-regulating markets and the potential for massive disruptions in aggregate demand. Governments around the world responded with large fiscal stimulus packages, drawing inspiration from Keynesian principles. The effectiveness of these stimulus packages remains a subject of ongoing debate. However, the crisis highlighted the relevance of Keynesian. The general theory continues to resonate in contemporary economic debates. The issues addressed by Keynes, such as the role of government in managing the economy, the importance of aggregate demand, and the causes of unemployment, remain central to economic policy making. The book's legacy lies not only in its specific theories, but also in its broader intellectual framework, which continues to inform economic analysis and policy decisions. It is a testament to the enduring power of ideas, providing insights into the complexities of the modern economy. The enduring influence of the general theory stems from its ability to provide a coherent explanation for the persistent economic problems of its time, and to offer practical solutions for addressing these problems. The work challenged the prevailing economic orthodoxy, ushering in a new era of macroeconomic thought and policy. Its legacy can be seen in the development of national income accounting, macroeconomic modeling, and the active role of government in managing the economy. While the specific theories of the general theory have been subject to criticism and revision, its broader intellectual framework remains relevant to contemporary economic debates. The general theory not only reshaped the economics of its time, but continues to shape economic thinking. Its insights endure, providing a valuable lens for understanding the complexities of the modern economy, demonstrating the powerful and lasting influence of Keynes' intellectual achievements.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.